fellow Earthlings, fellow people of Michigan. So I'm going to do a little bit of an educational video here and inform some individuals why they keep getting bad juju, every bit of it. There are, you'll have to look up your own self, but there's a thing that's called a soul swap. So with that broom, the way it's standing up, see, the thing is, John F. Kennedy, Mahatma Gandhi, I believe it was Teddy Roosevelt, they had done soul swaps, and there were a couple other people throughout history that had. And the reason somebody does that is because, such as myself, as where some people would say, you know, how do you think you're the governor? I would beg to say, well, how do you think that I'm not? Because there's a thing that's called undercover boss, right? And there's a distinct difference between a boss and a leader. But I would say unequivocally, beyond a reasonable doubt, if somebody had intentionally put themselves in harm's way to see the abuse that has taken place in psychiatric wards, somebody that has been used as a guinea pig for pharmaceuticals and then flipped it around and helped the swath of individuals that have had violence perpetrated against them, such as having to piss in a cup because they smoked a doobie, because the whole system that's been funding them to pee in the cup is that pharmaceutical industry. I would say that it's actually naive for some people to think that if somebody hadn't already had that stuff arranged in such a manner to be able to do that intentionally, I would say that that's naive on your behest or your part to think that somebody didn't do that just to be able to correct some stuff. And I had this conversation the other day, but I want to say the deity's name is Janus, so it ties back to the month of January. But this deity back when had an ability to open a door and shut another, right? So let's take a 30-year time frame, right? Or even a 40-year. And I had this conversation the other day, so I'm going to have it for someone else. So a generational curse, right? We're going to go ahead and give, for 10 years, this generation, right, we're going to give poor man's crack, Ritalin, Adderall to our youth, right? We're going to expect X, Y, or Z for an outcome, right? However, because we've just given it to them for 10 years or whatever it might be, that's one generation that it's now affected, an entire generation, right? So if it continues for another 10 years, that's a whole nother generation now that's affected, right? So it only takes one individual in that whole swath, let's just say the whole Michigan family, so 10 million people roughly in the state, roughly, right? For one person to say, you know, I think there's something wrong with this, okay? So if that happens, that means that that one individual just cut a snake in half, because if it proceeded for another 10 years, that means that you, not me, but the people that participate in giving their children poor man's crack and other stuff, now have a generational curse that would go on for another 10 years, right? So I'm going to let that sink in for just a wee little bit, because I sleep very well at night knowing that I put on blast and called them on their shit and said, you know, you're giving all your children poor man's crack. And I know for a fact I'm correct, because there was a young gent that left his pills on somebody's counter that used to participate in giving people pharmaceuticals like that, and had them drooling on themselves and not even being able to speak or anything else. So I know for a fact that I planted a seed, a mustard seed, for a young gent to get off that stuff. But I also informed that young man that there's no financial incentive for a doctor to be able to tell you that. So there you are. Our meters have yet to be put back. I could only imagine why, but because it doesn't fit somebody else's narrative, and because they don't get their way, they're going to cry boo hoo hoo. However, I don't feel bad at all. Our meters have yet to be returned the way they ought to have. And no, I've put on blast community mental health, CMH, and a bunch of other places because, well, their job is fraudulent. So there it is.